Well done to Ben Cohen at Dundalk. Back here in the studio, we are pressing on talking about some of the great successes of jockey Robbie Power, who has been a fascinating guest so far, talking about the success in the Grand National Silver Birch back in 2007, his first Cheltenham win on Boston's Angel, which came in 2011. Robbie, we were talking a few moments ago saying you had to wait 6 years for the next Cheltenham Festival winner. Of course, in 2007, talking about how things work in your favour and things sometimes don't. This was a year where things just fell into place for you. I mean, all the years of work and sacrifice and etc. 2017.
What, then it got easy? Is that what you're saying?
He's finally earning the rewards, Martin.
Okay.
You know?
It made it sound like it was easy, didn't he?
It's all falling into place. All the hard work in 2017. How did you end up on Sizing John and in a Gold Cup, considering this was a 2-miler in the Henry de Bromhead days?
He was, but yeah, look, he arrived in our yard. I remember when him and Super Sunday came to Jesse's yard, and Jesse said to me, she's got Sizing John and Super Sunday, and I thought, oh, great for you. No good for me, because Johnny Burke was Alan Potts' retained rider at the time, so that was fair enough. And we've talked already about injuries and all that, and when Sizing John made his debut for Jesse and Super Sunday, they made their debuts at Christmas, Johnny Burke was injured. And he was still injured when I won on Sizing John in the Kinloch Bray, and after that then Alan Potts decided to leave me on the horses in Jesse's. Johnny was still riding outside, so that injury that Johnny had at that time cost him the ride on Sizing John. But it was funny when he arrived in the yard, and when Johnny rode him most of the days, so he was in his work at the start, and then when he got injured I started riding him bits of his work, and I wasn't getting the feeler of a 2-miler off this horse. I said he's either a terrible workhorse at home, which he's not great anyway, but he did not feel like a 2-miler.
So were you thinking Gold Cup at that stage?
Well, no, I wasn't. I was thinking he was a very ordinary 2-miler. I said to Jessie, this horse doesn't feel like a 2-miler, he wants a trip. And she said, well, he's starting off over 2-mile. I can't not start him off over 2-mile. Yeah. So he went to Leopardstown at Christmas, and the same old thing happened again. He finished second, which was better than I thought he was going to run. Yeah. He finished second to Duvan. Beaten 7 or 8 lengths. Duvan moment his head in his chest, same old story. And it was a case of...
That, by the way, was the 7th time that he'd finished behind Duvan.
It was, yeah. And it was a case of, do we keep finishing second to Duvan, or do we try and do something different? So Jesse was keen to try something different, and so were the Pottses. And so we said we'd do it gradually. So we went 2.5 in the Kinloch Bray, and it took every inch of the 2.5 mile for him to get on top. He beat a horse of Henry's that day, actually. I can't remember the horse's name. A Gigginstown horse of Henry's that day, and it took every inch. We bypassed the last, and it took every inch of the 2.5 mile for him to get up. If we'd have jumped the last that day and he hadn't jumped the well,
Sub-lieutenant.
Sub-lieutenant, that's right. If we'd have jumped the last that day and he hadn't jumped the well, he'd have been bet. So that was, he won over 2.5, so that was grand. Couldn't wait to step up to 3 miles.
This is 2.5 months before the Gold Cup.
Yeah. But we made a decision, Jessie made a decision after his run in Punchestown that she wasn't going to enter him for the Champion Chase, she was going to enter him for the Ryanair and the Gold Cup.
Right.
And that would take it out of her mind that she wouldn't be tempted to go back for the Champion Chase if the Irish Gold Cup didn't work out. So then we went to the Irish Gold Cup, and it doesn't happen to me very often, but I actually thought he was a certainty in the Irish Gold Cup. I knew he'd stay the trip, and he was taking on Dom Poley, decent horses, but not. If he was able to stay with them, he was going to kill them for speed, you know. Yeah. And he beat them comfortably enough in the Irish Gold Cup, so then it was all systems.
And you were that confident?
I was very confident. The only worry in the Irish Gold Cup was he'd be too keen, because horses like Dom Poley and whatever else was in the race that day weren't be able to go fast enough to bring him a gallop where he was out of his comfort zone. Yeah. He was never going to be out of his comfort zone over 3 mile anyway, but we didn't go that quick, and he raced a little bit keen. But he still quickened up at the end and beat them comfortably enough. So
were you equally as confident going into the big one, Cheltenham?
I was that he'd stay, but I'd never ridden in a Gold Cup, so I didn't know was he a Gold Cup horse or wasn't he a Gold Cup horse. I actually thought when he won the Irish Gold Cup, I thought he'd win a bit easier. So it was a bit, was he really good enough to win a Gold Cup? I didn't know. I'd never ridden in a Gold Cup. I'd never ridden a horse that had won a Gold Cup, so even more I didn't know. So I didn't know, but I was hopeful that he would stay. and he'd have a chance, yeah.
All right, we'll move into the race then, and you can begin talking us through it by giving us an idea of, you saying your first goal. Were there any nerves about riding in the Gold Cup for the first time, considering this is such a big race?
Not really, no. I was looking forward to it, and I'd had a great week this week already. Super Sunday won the Coral Cup, and yeah, look, there was no real pressure on us because I don't think any of the general public or punters believed he'd stay.
Yeah.
Myself and Jesse were very confident he'd stay. Alan Potts, I don't think was convinced he'd stay either because he tried to buy a horse out of France as a Gold Cup horse.
Oh, right.
When all along he had a Gold Cup horse in his yard, but yeah, I sure was just riding and see what happens.
So you knew he'd stay?
I was confident. You can never be sure until the horse tries them extreme distances, 3.25 miles.
Was he a little bit keen here?
He was, yeah. He could travel away, but he settled into a rhythm. Jesse said to me going out, "What's your plan?" And I said, "Sure, I've no real plan, middle 3/4 way, but I'm going to keep out a little bit." I said, "I don't want to get stuck down the inside, let him use his jumping." And funnily enough, I went around the inside the whole way. But that's why I hate, you know, as a rider, you hate being told to be on the inside or to be on the outside. It's wherever you find a pocket of room.
You have to react to what's happening,
and find where the room is. And when I go past Paul Townend after jumping the water jump, he's on the inside, an Irish Cavalier. And when I get past him, I've got a lovely posse then with loads of room. So I've just been able to switch onto the rail. I'm tracking Ruby and Jack Adam, Darryl Jacobs in front of Bristol, the Mai.
Yeah.
I've all the horses you want in front of you are in front of you, cue cards on the outside, so you're surrounded by the horses you want to be surrounded by.
It was a good race as well. I mean, obviously Native River out in front, a Gold Cup winner himself. Cue cards alongside you there. And Jack Adam obviously been placed, Bristol and May, who you would talk about. At this, when you assessed the horses before the race, which were the ones that you felt were your dangers?
Obviously Jack Adam, because he'd been trained specifically for this race. He'd been second in 2 Gold Cups before, and this time Willie had mapped the plan out from. I don't think he'd missed a beat.
Yeah.
Connections were very, very confident going into this Gold Cup that he was that he'd win. I think Ruby rode him that way as well. He rode him with loads of confidence. He was probably the main Irish one, and I suppose Native River and Q Card, who was going extremely well when he fell in the Gold Cup the year before.
Don Cossack, yeah.
Don Cossack, yeah. Native River had a fantastic season this season. He'd won the Welsh Grand National. He'd won his probably arguably his most impressive performance of that season was his run in the Denman Chase. Yeah. when he won with I think Aidan Coleman rode him because Dickie was elsewhere. Native River really jumped into the Gold Cup picture because he was so impressive that day. So
imagine what Jesse's thinking here when you've told her you're going to keep on the outside.
I know, yeah. Imagine what I was thinking. I was thinking if I get brought down now, I'm going to get some bollocking when I go back in. But to be fair, that was my suggestion. I was saying that I was going to keep out.
But you did what you felt was right.
I did what I felt. I don't think I've ever done something in a race that I didn't think was the right thing to do at the time, but I've moved onto the inside.
He's still a bit keen there.
Yeah, coming down the hill, he'd latched onto the bridle, and as it turned out, I was probably lucky I went down the inside, because if I had no cover, he might have ran too keen. He'd been lovely and relaxed, but when we came down the hill, he latched onto it.
It can be awkward, can't it, if you're on a horse that can take hold and then you start meeting ground running away from you. They just, naturally start to go quicker, don't they?
They just get on their heads a bit, and start galloping, taking it on.
There's Jack Adam. So you're going out on the second circuit, obviously. You're confident that you're going to see the trip out. At this point, how confident are you about your chances of winning it?
Yeah, everything has gone as I wanted it to go on the first circuit. We'd gone a decent gallop without going crazy. We've got a nice even gallop, and I was a bit concerned when he latched on coming down the hill. But now he's back. He's settled away again. He got in a bit tight to that one, which actually did him a favour because he spat the bit out even a bit more after doing it, so there was no harm. And I've got who I want in front of me, the horse that all the money's for, that all the talk is for, is directly in front of me, and he's been second in 2 Gold Cups, so the chances are, if I'm good enough to stay following him, he's going to lead me to where I want to be.
Would that be more important, the fact that you're in behind the horse you want to follow rather than having room?
I've both. Now Ruby's angled out a little bit as well, and I've got the best of both worlds. I'm following a great jump here. The only time I did get a bit concerned now is the top of the hill when Dickie's starting to press on here now in Native River. And just for a second, I'm stuck behind Champagne West, who I did not want to be stuck behind Champagne West, because he wasn't the best jumper in Ireland. You know, he was. Jumping wasn't his strongest point.
He's in the light blue colours,
in the Brookhouse colours in front of me. Yeah.
So you're thinking of angling off here now?
Yeah, Ruby's angled out. I start to angle out after this fence. You can see Paddy Brennan goes for a gap on Q car, and I've gone for the same gap, and I've just nudged him out of it.
Just got a bit more horse than Paddy.
Just a bit more horse than Paddy. Paddy was niggling, and I've just been able to angle away from Champagne West.
That's a nice spot to be in, and you can't be really happy with that spot there.
I'm perfect now, and I'm back where I wanted to be. Ruby'd angled out away from Champagne West before that, and I'm now back where I want. I get switched back in here again because Smart Places on the outside. He's moved upside Bristol to mine again. I've got the perfect spot down track and Jackadam and Native River down to the third last.
These type of races, they're so much more tactical than people realise, aren't they? I mean, you're talking us through this in different stages. It is amazing.
It is, because it was the Cheltenham Festival Gold Cup. You've everybody going out to the Gold Cup thinks they have a chance of winning, even when they're riding a. And I was the same when I was riding another race at Cheltenham, riding a 50 to 1 shot, to try and convince yourself of some line of form that gives the horse a chance.
The small margins of errors. I bet your Ruby thinks she's won here.
Yeah, this the change of the race. Ruby gets in tight on Jacket and makes a mistake, and Seisen John wings it. And I was hoping to get a lead for a bit longer, but I jumped my way there, and now I've said, right, you either stay or you don't. So
good jump.
The way he's jumped the last, you've said he's got to get up the hill now. He has to stay going, and to be fair to him, he does.
It is amazing watching this and you talking us through it in this sort of timing. In your head, how quickly is all this happening in the race itself?
Yeah, very quickly. And that's why you're making split-second decisions the whole time. When I jumped off middle of the fence, looking to get a bit of room on the outside. Everyone's wanting to keep out. No, I'm going inside. More room in there.
Your celebrations have definitely improved.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen your celebrations being an Everton sport.
Oh, low blow. So what? You've just won a Cheltenham Gold Cup. You've won a Grand National. Which would be the best?
I said both. I think the Grand National was perfect timing for my career. I needed a race to win a race at the Grand National at that time in my career, and I'd had a fantastic run of things up this season, especially up to the Gold Cup. But I really appreciate the Gold Cup. You know, that was
the Gold Cup. It's the daddy, is it?
It's the pinnacle. You know, it's like the Derby. There's only one Gold Cup. Besides, John won 3 that year, but there's only one Gold Cup, and it's the pinnacle. And that walk back down in Cheltenham is it's second to none. You know,
that moment of crossing the line, the celebrations afterwards, and then the walk down back into the winners' enclosure. What is that like for a rider?
It is unbelievable. That walk back down in front of the stands is something else. It's unbelievable. He got a fantastic reception, and that's when you walk into that parade ring and you're walking straight up instead of being told to go left or right. It's it's a great feeling. And
to do it for the Pots, did that mean a little bit more as well?
Yeah, not really. I don't think I hadn't met Anna Adam Potts before the Cheltenham Festival. By the time the horse had run in Ireland, they hadn't come to see them run. I'd spoken to them on the phone, but I'd never met them. But they were huge supporters of the game, and they deserved. All they ever wanted to win was a Gold Cup. Anne was very sick at the time, and all they ever wanted was a Gold Cup winner. And for him to deliver a horse they bought at the very start of his career as an unbroken 3-year-old, they bought him. For him to come through the ranks and win a Gold Cup, they deserve that because they put so much into the game.
I noticed you refrained from a flying dismount.
Yeah, that was a bit
age catching up.
Yeah, definitely.
How many Grade 1s did he win on him?
He won. That was his second Gold Cup that year. He won 4 Grade 1s. I won 4 Grade 1s to him. Yeah.
I mean that horse as well. I mean, we might talk about him obviously later on in the show, but he won 3 Gold Cups in the space of 2.5 months. You mentioned obviously the Irish Gold Cup. He won Cheltenham, and then he went to Punchestown. For a horse that previously had been locking horns with Duvin unsuccessfully 7 times, he'd been beaten by him, stepped up in distance for the first time only in the Kinloch Bray in January. It was an incredible achievement in such a short space of time, I thought.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever be repeated again. I mean, I don't even think many trainers will attempt it again. Irish Gold Cup, Cheltenham Gold Cup and Punchestown Gold Cup, because they come in such a short space of time.
Yeah.
And I remember when we jumped off after jumping 3 fences in the Punchestown Gold Cup on Size and John, I was thinking this was a bad idea.
Really?
Yeah. he went there with Conor Gree, who was a Gold Cup winner as well.
Yeah.
And we were going a hell of a gallop that day, and I just thought, no, this lad is not firing at all. And it was his jumping and his heart kept him in it, that definitely, we talked about it with Boston's Angel, he has that same level of toughness that he had, because on that occasion, if he was only ability, he wouldn't have won. He had to be so brave to win that day.
And although he won the Gold Cup at Cheltenham, and that's the pinnacle, did your admiration for the horse go up exponentially because of that performance when you thought maybe this might have been one step too far?
Yeah, obviously it did. And then you're hoping that we haven't gone to the well once too often. He was only a 7-year-old, and you're hoping that he's going to come back in the next season and be as good. And thankfully he did. He came back in and he absolutely bolted up. I think probably one of his best performances ever, over 2.5 in the John Durkan. Yeah. And when we walked back in after the John Durkan, you're like, oh, thank God, he's still as good as he was.
Yeah. It's almost a relief.
It is a relief,
rather than enjoy.
Yeah.
How hard a decision was it after Cheltenham to go again to Punchestown?
Well, look, that was Jesse's decision, and it probably wasn't that difficult, because he came home, whatever way it worked out that year. Punchestown was a week later, so there was an extra week in between the two festivals. But the way he was working at home and the signs he was showing, it was never in doubt that we were going to go. And Jesse had said all along he was going to Punchestown, but if he showed any sign that he wasn't himself, he wouldn't run. Yeah. And he had showed no sign until we went half a mile in the race, and I was thinking, how did I not detect this at home? But he was just, everything was going well at home, and it was probably one of the best races I've ever rode in as well. The Punchestown Gold Cup, that was a hell of a race. The speed we went, he had 2 Gold Cup winners in it, Conor Gree and Size and John, and Jack Adam, who'd been runner up in two Gold Cups and third in the Gold Cup. So the 3 horses ended up jumping the last upsides, but it had been like Conor Gree the year he won his Gold Cup. We'd gone a hell of a gallop all the way.